Hi, everybody. It's Kayla Got the 411. I am here in regards to the Voyage team. I have a group of amazing women. They're going to be joining me today. We are a panel of women of color. We are coming together to get into some very serious topics when it comes to women of color in the workforce. But since we are all in a creative space, some of us work in film, some of us work in art, and of course, I work in media. We're going to be talking about our experiences that we deal with. So today I have with me Neriah. How you doing, Neriah? How you feeling?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk about all things being women of color in this industry. So I'm super excited. Thank you for having me.
And we have Essay. How are you, Essay?
Hi, how's everyone doing today? Great. Happy to be here.
Yes. And last we have Yari. How you doing, Yari?
Hi, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on this panel with you all.
I'm excited also. I'm not quite sure if Voyage has ever did anything like this. So I'm honored to be a host. And I think some of the topics and discussions that you all kind of referred for something that we really need to talk about. I don't think a lot of people come together to talk about the issues, especially within this industry, but from not a safe space, but really getting into the nitty gritty of what we actually go through. Now, many have heard this saying that this is a man's world. I'm pretty sure you all heard that song from James Brown, but everybody seems to forget that last part, but it would be nothing without a woman. Women today are proving that we are bosses, we are leaders, we are innovators. Even still today, we deal with issues from not receiving equal pay, harassment in the workplace, and sexism. But when you are a woman of color in the workplace, there comes racism, discrimination, along with being stereotyped. So equality is nice on paper, but many women of color, we live it every day in the workplace. So until you actually hear us talk, you would never understand what we go through unless you get us all together. And that's what we're doing today. Now, during this panel, we're going to be discussing our experiences as women of color in film, media, art, or the workplace in general. We're going to be giving our insights into the lack of representation of women of color in film, colorism within the entertainment, music, art, and the film industry. That's a big one right now. That's kind of been going viral on TikTok. And how to be true to yourself while presenting your best professional self in these industries. And lastly, work-life balance. Can you be successful while still staying in this industry, while everyone promotes the hustle culture, where they want you to work to death, and then you end up dying from being so stressed out, you can't even enjoy everything that you worked hard on. Now, Essay and Neriah, you all work in the film, so you guys go ahead and introduce yourself before we get rolling. You can start, Neriah.
So I'm Neriah, I'm a cinematographer, but I also have my own production company as well. I've been doing this for about 9 years now. I've done it all. I've edited, I've done the corporate route, the freelance thing. I used to do music videos. I shot weddings. I've done, pretty much anything film and video related. So as you can imagine, I have countless stories, which led me to eventually start my own company because I just didn't want to play the game, that is set up right now when it comes to climbing the ladder in Hollywood and trying to get there. It's just a lot of politics there. So I kind of just wanted to play the game my way, if that makes sense. So that's why I ended up here.
I'm Essay, writer, director, producer. I have my own production company here in Atlanta. I've only been doing it about 4 years. So I'm steadily growing, getting better. I've got about 15 short films and I've done a stage play. So getting ready to do my first feature. So
my name's Yari. I'm a visual artist. I've been out of school for maybe about 3 years, but I'm trained as a painter. I'm somewhere in between painting and photography right now. I'm still making my way to, supporting myself off of my art. That's not something I've been able to achieve yet, but it's a goal of mine. And I've been working in like arts administration and other kinds of like art related jobs and nonprofit. So I've dealt with my fair share as well through the years, but I'm happy to be able to like share with you all what I've been through and hear from you guys as well.
Yes, and I'm Kayla Got, the 411 media personality. I have a talk show, and I talk on a lot of topics, but I haven't really got in depth with this type of topic. So I'm excited to have you ladies on here from all different aspects. Now, SA and Neriah, you all work directly in the film industry when it comes to films. Today, many Black women feel that there are not enough roles available, that current roles are written for lighter complexion Black women. Do you all feel colorism still affects the film industry?
When it comes to the cast or the crew or both? It's kind of different issues for both.
I guess from either direction. I guess from a writer's point of view, I guess a lot of these writers, they do write for people of color until they get to someone who actually wants to pick it up. Then they want to switch things around. We've seen that in popular TV shows where all of a sudden, you have a dark skinned wife, and all of a sudden she switched out for a light skinned wife. Nobody says anything. I was like, okay, we noticed that, but nobody's going to explain why.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so exactly like what you just said. Not only just seeing that on the bigger scale, but I'm seeing that a lot with like friends of mine right now that are in the stage of getting investors or like pitching or, getting in the room to try to talk to some streaming services or whatever they have you. And they're being told that, oh, we love this idea, we'd love to work with you and greenlight it. But, and it's always that but, and it usually means diminishing the vision in some way. And a lot of the times it is saying, well, we want to put this actress in, this, either light-skinned actress in, or we want to actually not even make them a person of color and get so-and-so white actress in instead. So this is definitely still an issue happening now. It's not, old news. I mean, yes, we're moving in a better direction, I guess, because I am seeing shows that are offering, dark skin, leads and more people that look like me and what may have you, but it's definitely still an issue. Now on the cruise side, it's like even here in Atlanta right now, like I can count on one hand how many like female DPs that I know. Like to be a camera woman is like, it's like we're unicorns because we just don't get the opportunity. I guess people just don't think that we can do that. It's a man's job. It's a very white male dominated, departments in general. So there's a lot of that. There's just not a lot of opportunity. So what I hope is like when I work on stuff, I try to hire as many like Black cinematographers or camera operators or, gimbal operators, or just so we can start to create some conversation around that, like, hey, we can do the job too. So that's what I'm seeing on the crew side. Like we're not really getting a lot of the same opportunities. I think they always kind of put us in the box and tell us to go to this department or this department. We can do more than just, what people would think. So we're strong too, you know what I mean? Like we can handle a heavy camera, we can do that too. So
change. Okay, I actually, looking for a videographer. I was like, why can't I find a woman that's a videographer? Keep meeting all these men. Like, where are the women at? So it's really hard. I feel like it's a small bunch of us, but I like having these conversations. And now I've met you, and I'm meeting all of you all. So now I have access to film. If I ever want to do anything, I know women, and I know women of color that I can reach out to. What about you, Estee, since you actually have a film company? So it's like you're the boss, you're in charge now, but I'm pretty sure you used to be on the other side too. Have you seen anything that you can give your input?
I have to agree with Neriah. It is very hard to find that female DP. One of my goals is for one of my projects is to have all persons of color. At one point, one of my projects to have an all-female crew, or at least above the line crew. That's a goal of mine to actually have a crew that women of color. That's my goal. So it's definitely hard to find. So in fact, I've got a project coming up now. I need to probably get it Neriah when this is over and see if we can work something out.
Yeah, let me know. I'm here.
This is what I love networking too. I don't know about you all, but sometimes men can sometimes make me feel so uncomfortable. And it's like, gosh, it's like when you're normally the only woman like in a particular dominated field, it's all they don't have a problem reminding you that you're a woman, no, you're a woman. And it's like, I get it, but I still have talent as well. Treat me as equal. Now, what do you all think is causing the lack of representation of women of color in film, entertainment, music, and arts? Is it because there's lack of writers and directors who are people of color, or because the industry is heavily dominated by men?
Yeah, I think it's because, it's always been straight white men, and that's just what everyone is used to. I also wanted to mention that I find that when I'm on set, sometimes especially, and my actors will do it too, they'll look to the DP, because I typically have a male DP, and they'll look to the DP with their questions instead of asking me as the director or producer. And it's simply because I'm a woman. They, and I really don't think they do it intentionally. It's just like ingrained. Yeah, we know you're the one writing the checks, but this male DP over here, we're gonna ask him what to do, because we just don't have the confidence in you as a woman and as a Black woman. So I think Black women have that double whammy, other than any other minority, being a woman and being Black. We are the low price spread, and it's kind of hard, and men have a hard time taking direction from women as well. So you have that aspect too.
Yeah, just to add on to what she said, is just like, so I had a very similar situation where I actually was the director, and I had my gaffer, who, white male, and I had the similar thing where people were more like going to him and taking command from him, and I'm like, technically, like, I wrote this, I'm directing it, like, so I've had that similar situation, 100% to the, like you said, it may not even be intentional, but yeah, just people think like, oh, this person, I need to be taking command from this person in particular. It's like, why is that? Why is that happening? What is that?
Do you all feel like, as a society here, we are trained to believe that white men are inferior to everybody else, even if they don't have the qualifications? Why would they feel more comfortable going to him? He may not even know anything. He could be just the third day on the job. In a lot of those situations, you have heard women's stories, especially on Twitter and TikTok now, where they're like, I have this coworker, they don't know anything. They're getting all the credit because they keep coming to me for help, asking questions, but they're the one getting all the credit. Have you all experienced anything like that? Especially Yari, I know you are Mexican as well, and we know that there's not much representation for women of color also in your industry. That's why you have those separate platforms where they're able to. It's kind of like, do you feel like it's segregated, Yari?
I think like what I've noticed is like there's like the Netflix Instagram, and then there's like the Netflix, there's like for like Latino shows Instagram, like it's separate. And it's interesting that it would be separate. I get maybe from like a marketing perspective, they're trying to like narrow down on their target population, but it is weird, like it is strange. I do think there's been like improvements in representation, but I think there's still a long way to go. And I think like mistakes will be made along the way and have been made along the way in terms of, like representing Mexicans or Latino folks in like this very stereotypical light. And I think it's gotten a lot better, but yeah, like I think the more like honest and like diverse representation there is, because even within like, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this too, even within like a certain ethnic community, like there's so many different experiences, and there's so many like different types of people, and like one story isn't going to apply to everyone just because it's like, oh, it's a Latino story, or it's a Black story, or it's an Asian story. Like it's not going to apply to the whole community, but it does help to hear them. And it really helps when it's like, when we're the ones writing them, or we're the ones like voicing those stories, because it's coming from us, and it's coming from like our lived experiences, and it's coming from a place of like us finally being able to like not just use our voice, but like have it be heard too, versus like having someone else tell the story for us. So I think sometimes it can, I think the approach sometimes goes, I guess, south in terms of what you were asking, Kayla, if it's like segregating, but I think it'll get worked out further on. Like, I think it'll come from a place of like just having more people share their stories, and like having folks that aren't necessarily from that population, like aren't Latino or aren't Black or aren't Asian, like watch those stories too, or read them or listen to them. And like, that'll also help with like, I hope, with like stereotypes, because I think a lot of stereotypes and a lot of like hate just comes from like fear, and that fear comes from ignorance. And the more stories we have out there that come from us, like the more information is out there and more representation versus like misrepresentation of our stories.
Mm-hmm. You made a great point too about everybody has different stories. You know, for example, I know me being a Black woman, I know the smell of a hot comb from being a little girl and my grandmother getting the hot comb ready. So if you're having a movie and you're talking about, you know, the hot comb smell, the only person that's really going to understand that experience is probably a person that's Black. Even I'm pretty sure for Yari, I'm pretty sure there are particular dishes that you all cook, and there's a movie. The only person that can actually write from that experience is probably a person of that descent. So you need writers that's actually writing based off the experience. It's kind of hard for a white woman to talk about the smell of a hot comb unless she grew up in a Black family home. So those are really, really important, having people behind the scenes who are actually writing based off the experiences. So when these Black actors or these Hispanic actors, they get these roles, okay, they feel more relatable. You know, hear a lot of actors say, oh, I need to change this script. It doesn't seem like a Black woman. It doesn't seem like a Mexican woman. That's because we have people that are writing these stories, but they never lived it. So if we have more representation, do you all think that would definitely help, especially when it comes in the writer's room?
100%. I preach this all the time. I'm like, anytime I see a show that's predominantly Black or predominantly any ethnicity, I immediately go to IMDb and I'm like, but who made it though? Let me see. 9 times out of 10, I'm still seeing that it's like, oh, 2 old white guys. I'm like, how? What? So it is still an issue, like you said, but there are some shows that are getting so much better about that. The one that comes to mind is This Fool. I love that show. It's so good. And, it's, predominantly Mexican. And when I went to look at who was making it, they were like legit all Mexican. I was like, love that. And it's such a good show. And I'm like, that's probably why it's amazing. Cause it's like, they're making their content and like, it's great. It's on Hulu. Highly recommend. So good. So yeah, I'm an advocate for that. We need to be telling our own stories. I don't even understand how it's not even just like white people in general. Like I can't write, a Mexican story. Like I don't know anything about that culture, that I didn't come up that way. So in general, just like a general statement, I just feel like we all need to be a part of making our own stories. Not to say that we can't collaborate. I'm not saying like white people are not allowed in these writer rooms, but like it should definitely be, we should have like all the different perspectives. So like you said, like, Mexican, okay, but then you get like male, female, maybe a different religion, maybe a different sexual orientation, maybe a different age, like consider, one with a disability, one, neurodivergent, or just all the different things to like just cover that. And then it could be like a collaborative thing, but 100% we need to be telling our stories, period. It just makes sense to do it that way because we can only speak to it the best way that we can. So.
That was a great point. Even you see a lot of times these, I don't know if you all remember that LeBron James did that magazine cover and it just went viral. And I think he was holding a white woman and it looked like he was just a big Black monster. And it just went viral. Everybody was like, who in their right mind over there like approved this? Like they could not have had anybody who was in that room that let that go through. Like a lot of people were offended by that. So when you don't have people in these rooms and things get out and people are offended, even the situation, I think it was something where they had a little boy, he had a monkey shirt on, H&M, and everybody's like, who let this out? And then when you look at it, there was nobody of color in those rooms to vouch and say, hey, we can't let that out. So I think that was a great point made. Now, I know in order for a lot of artists to reach mainstream success, they are heavily encouraged to forget their roots and become more Americanized. You know, we see a lot of times where a lot of artists who are of Spanish descent, when they want to actually progress, they always tell them, well, you have to stop singing in Spanish. You got to become more Americanized. You know, you got to dye your hair and things like that. Yari, do you feel like the representation of the Latinos have improved? And how and what does the community need to do for you all to feel more accepted and respected for their art?
I think it has improved. I think, like I mentioned earlier, like it still has a long way to go. I think there are definitely like Americanized Latinos, but I think like it gets kind of dicey when like you're favoring the Americanized ones and kind of putting down the more traditional ones. I think for artists of color, or especially Hispanic artists, to feel like accepted and respected, they just need to be invited into these like spaces to like talk about their work, to write about it, to show it more often, and not just show it, not just be in there, like actually be given the chance to speak and like have dialogues with them and, you know, that kind of thing. I think another thing I would ask, like, I guess the people that are more established and already in these spaces is like to ask themselves, like, would you ask this many questions or ask for this many credentials or ask for so much like proof of like qualification from like a white artist or from a white male, or, you know, and if they do, fine. But as long as, you know, like you're not like, as for people to like check their like prejudices, I guess, and, you know, not put like artists of color through more like, what's the word? Like
heavy vetting, basically.
Yeah, like having to make, thank you, Neriah, for, like, you know, like making them like prove themselves more than like they would ask someone else to. I think that's also something to consider.
Now, thinking back to your experiences in your industry or just the workplace altogether, have you all ever felt fully accepted for you, or do you feel like in order to truly fit into these spaces where it is populated by mainly whites, you have to code switch? Because, oh gosh, it's got to the point I've just gave up. I can't fake it too much longer. I'll just be myself.
I don't know. For a long time I did like shapeshift depending on who I was in the room with, because to your point, like you said earlier, Kayla, like the uncomfortableness when you're the only woman, and then to add to that, the only Black woman, and then to add to that again, the only young Black woman in the room. Like, oh yeah, it's like, let me sit up straighter. Let me, you know, pronounce every syllable when I talk. Like, yeah. So I have a little bit of that because I'm from California. So obviously like I sound like a Californian, but like, yeah, I've definitely gotten to the point where I want to present myself, and I only want to work with people that vibe with me. So like, in order for that to happen, I have to present my authentic self. I don't want to be acting a certain way. That person connects to this person with the mask, and now every time I come in, I got to be that person. Like, that's exhausting, and it strips kind of your identity. So yeah, I've also gotten to the point where it's just like, it is what it is. This is me. Like, take it or leave it. If you don't vibe with it, like, that's totally fine. But I'm glad that, you know, I presented myself and I can see upfront, like, if this is something that is going to be like an issue for you, for me to be who I am. And if it is, like, I don't want to work with that person anyway. So.
Exactly. It's easy to lose yourself, especially most jobs where you go on like over 8 hours, so you're there all day pretending to be somebody. By the time you get home, you're exhausted because you put on this mask all day. I know there's a time when you talked about being the youngest person out of a job, we also experience being judged based off our young. They always feel like you don't know much or you don't have the qualifications. And I've even had someone tell me, we don't feel like you're right for this position because due to your age. I was like, but I have this experience. Then they went on to say, it's your accent, because I'm from the South. I do have an accent. I can't turn it off. I've tried, but it's just stuck here. And it's so funny because after that manager left, he ended up getting fired. Anyways, another manager came and I ended up getting a supervisor position just based off my qualifications, not my age, not my accent or anything. So I think that was very, very important. What about you, Essay and Yari? Do you all have any take on that also?
Yeah, I think I definitely, I still code switch, to be honest. And like Neriah was saying, it's exhausting, like to do that like all day. And I guess like I didn't even realize I was doing it until like I met someone that I felt and I meant this might sound kind of messed up, but I felt like safe not code switching around, and like just felt comfortable being myself. And I just like noticed like how much more relaxed I was, and like how much more of myself was coming through, and like I formed like a more authentic connection with them than I did with like anyone else prior to that, because I had been code switching the whole time. But I think like, I mean, it's tough because I mean, I'm glad that, you know, to know that you can get to a point where you're just over it and you can just be yourself. But there are still times where I'm like I think about it in like my wardrobe. I'm like, well, I can't wear a v-neck because I don't want like people to think I look like trashy. Or if I do, like, I can't wear my hoops or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so like, there's all these little things that I feel like I think about sometimes. And I don't know, like just hearing you guys talk about it gives me a lot of encouragement.
I understand. I've taken my hoops. I've been on interviews and I'm like, let me put in my studs on my pearls, because my hoops, even though they can be small hoops like this, you know, it's always a stereotype when they think of hoops. But these are kind of based off the negative things that they show in the films a lot of times. But this is our culture. What I learned, this is our culture. You know, we want to wear big hoops and our style. This is who we are. So we have to learn. I guess they have to learn how to accept us. What about you, S.A.? Do you have any experiences?
Well, for me, I think because I'm older now, I really don't give a. But
yes.
You know, you're gonna take me as I am, or you know, not take me at all. So I haven't had the experience of being in the rooms, you know, in the decision making rooms yet, because I've been doing my own thing. And so I've been the yes person, but I'm confident enough in myself, in my talent, and in my material that when I do get into decision-making rooms, I can still be the same essay. I'm not going to put on airs. I'm not going to pretend I'm something I'm not. This is who I am. This is my project. Take it or leave it. You know, we can negotiate and go from there. But I just think that comes from being on the older, and you know, the older end of the bracket, and you know, just having lived a little life.
And I feel like I'm getting there now. Like, you know, that was perfect lead into my next question. Like, how do we stay true to ourselves as women of color in these settings, but still remain professional? That's the key word, professional. Anytime you are a little bit more assertive or anything, they always use the word aggressive. So how do we stay true in these settings, but still come off as professional by getting our point across?
I think just by being, like you said, just being professional. Being your authentic self. People get caught up in facades, and it's hard to keep up with your lies if you're not being who you are. And eventually your true person, your true self is going to shine through. So you might as well just walk in with who you are.
Yes. That's a good. I always say sometimes people can't even remember their lies, and if you're a smart person like me, I remember all your lies. So just be yourself.
Yeah.
I have a question that goes with that for everyone. I'm just curious, like, what do you guys deem as professional? Because I've learned that professional means something different to everybody. Like, for example, like my braids, like at one point, like I was told that this wasn't professional for work, like having like colored braids, like if I had blue or something. But like I would have like cohorts that, you know, white cohorts that would come in with rainbow hair, like that was fine. But like for me to have braids and have like blue or something in my hair, like that wasn't professional. But again, what does that have to do with my work ethic and like my skill sets and my knowledge? So and then even going back to your point, Kayla, with your Southern accent, like even with your Southern accent, like I perceive you as very professional, you know what I mean? But like you said, there was someone at some point that thought that wasn't professional. So I'm just curious on if you guys feel like there is a definitive definition on that, because yeah, I just feel like it's hard to be professional when it, depending on who you're talking to, the professional definition kind of changes.
That's a good question. Wow. I guess I look at professionalism of, I treat people how I would want people to treat my business. for example. So, if I'm trying to get my point across, I make sure I say it in a way where I'm not coming off disrespectful, but you understand that I mean business. So I would expect someone to say that to me. So I kind of go through it like, I'm going to talk to them the way I would want somebody to talk to me when it comes to my business. Yeah, professional. I'm still working on that. That's because I feel like being a woman in this industry, I deal with a lot of men, a lot of, hip hop industry guys, and a lot of these PR people, they're men, and, they can really try to disrespect you. So I really have to be assertive and let them know, like, you cannot play with me, because I feel like once you don't set your boundaries, doesn't matter if you're talking to anybody of any color, when it comes to a man, they would definitely feel like they can disrespect you. So I don't really care what they think of me. I don't care if they think, oh, she's bossy, but I have to let people know, you have to respect my business and my brand. If I don't put my foot down now, everybody's gonna feel like they can just disrespect me and everything I work hard for.
Yeah, that's true. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept and what you don't accept. So, that's a big piece of it. And as far as I'm concerned, if you look at it as aggressive or bossy, that's on you. I'm just setting up my boundaries and telling you what I will and will not tolerate.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I agree. I think professionalism, I think there's like an elitist view of it, which sounds a lot like what Neriah was describing. Like, you have to look a certain way, or you can't have your hair this way, or like, if, I don't know, I don't agree with that view. I think it has a lot more to do with how you treat people, how you get your work done. I think professionalism lies in like an integrity too. It's like, if you say you're going to do something, like, you do it, which goes along with boundaries, as well as like self-respect too. Like, if someone tries to cross those boundaries, like, also just telling them, like, no, like, that's not how we're going to do things. And, standing your ground and knowing, I guess, like, having that belief in yourself too, even if like someone else wants to challenge it. And yeah, being respectful, I think, and if someone's trying to be disrespectful to you, like, knowing that it's not disrespectful to tell them, like, that you're not gonna accept that treatment.
I loved all those questions, and all of that to me is professional. So that's why I was curious to know, like, it sounds like we're all pretty much on that same, page, as far as like, it's respect, it's consideration for other people's time and energy and labor for whatever we came together for. I would deem myself professional for that reason. Like, when you're on my set, like, we're gonna be on time as much as possible. Of course, things happen, but like, I'm not gonna ever be lackadaisical. And if I say we're gonna be here from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., like, we're wrapping at 8 p.m. regardless. Like, you know what I mean? Because like, I respect your time. We all have families. We have things to do. We might have school tomorrow. We might have work tomorrow. So just respecting the human in people is what I think is professionalism. Because coming from both corporate and freelance background, it's like, that's what I found is like, a lot of my bosses were just treating us like workhorses, and I don't think that that's professional. So I think it has different definitions, but definitely comes back to just respect, consideration, kindness, and just always seeing people as human. I think that's professional. So that's how I would be.
And those are basic things that you would think that everyone would have, those things that they teach you in kindergarten. I have a 9-year-old, so I teach her manners. Yes, ma'am. Clean up behind yourself. Respect. But a lot of adults, especially in these corporate jobs and workforces, they don't have any type of home training. Is the word home training. So that is a big point. Now, studies show that women of color pay is less than many of their counterparts who have the same title, but we are expected to work harder for less. Many women worldwide have increasingly become their own bosses. Still, there are hurdles when banks are even known to illegally discriminate against people of color. How do we stand our ground, demand respect without coming off as aggressive? That was something that we talked about earlier, when we are in situations where we are being discriminated against towards. Now, I actually came across an article about this, where I think a bank even got in trouble with this, where it shows that they were, not giving people of color the loans based off their race. So what are you all thinking about that?
I think kind of like what we've all just said, I think it's just being consistent and persistent with what your mission is and your purpose is. and not really letting that dictate what your decision is going to be on how you run your business or how you follow your dreams. So like, I know that me being a younger Black woman is going to be an issue for some, but I'm not going to necessarily adjust my approach just because of that. So I think just standing, like we were saying with boundaries, standing your ground on your boundaries. You know, this is how I want to run my business. Actually, I have a hilarious story I just thought about. This just happened. It's the most recent thing. Okay, so someone DM'd me for cinematography services, and young Black male, won't say names, but he wasn't famous, but I guess he had a little something going on. He had some followers, whatever. And he's like, hey, wanting to inquire about my cinematography services. So I was like, sure, if you can just go to this link and get on my calendar, because I'm super busy, as you can imagine. So just book off some time, and then, I'll carve out that 30 minutes, an hour to just talk with you. Like, that's just how I have to organize my day. Like, I'm not trying to be like high status, like, oh, you got to book something with me. It's just like, genuinely, this is how I have to do it because I have so much. Like, I'm running my daughter to ballet. I'm doing a lot of stuff. So when you do that, okay, I can organize my day. It's like, it's nothing like bougie about that. That's how I have to do it. Like, his response was literally like, oh, I don't work that way. Google me. Like, this could have been a big thing for you. Sorry, like, good luck. I'm like, he was like thoroughly offended that I asked him to schedule time to talk to me. Yeah, and like, I'm sorry, sir, like, you contacted me. Like, like, basically coming from a point of like, I'm big-ish, basically, and I'm just like, again, it's the boundary thing. I set a boundary for myself that if you want to talk to me, like, I'm more than happy, but like, I have to block off time to do that with you because I'm so busy. So that's my boundary. And it's like, I want that to be respected. So him doing that just lets me know you're not going to respect my time. I don't want to collaborate with you because you're not going to respect my time. And I would do that for you. I would respect your time. Like, and it's like any other thing. If you go make an appointment with the doctor, I mean, of course there's walk-ins, but you get my point. Like, if you're going to go see a specialist, you can't just walk in and be like, my leg hurts. Like, no, you got to make an appointment. Yeah. They're seeing other people.
Late, you have to pay a deposit. That's even what I started doing with my show. Like, I'm sitting waiting for you, and you're not here. You have a PR, you have management. Nobody told you the time. So when I started saying, okay, if you want to be back on, you need a deposit. They're like, oh wow, you're charging? Yeah, I have bills and electricity, and this is how I keep it on.
It's your time.
Money.
It's your time, and you can't get your time back. Time is super valuable. So anyways, without going on too long about that, but yeah, so that was something that happened recently. So and normally that would really get to me, like, oh no, well, let me now I'm like, well, it is what it is. Next. Like, I mean, because like I said, I want to work with people that respect my time, and I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to respect people that I work with. So I think just standing your ground, because I could have bowed down and be like, well, wait, let me see what I could do. No, I blocked him and kept it moving. I was like, it'll be other clients. Like, so I think as long as we keep just standing in our truth and in our boundaries and not wavering, like, I think that eventually, as we just continue to be stronger and stuff like that, that'll go away because people will start to understand, like, oh, okay, like, women ain't playing no more. Like, we can't just toss them around like we used to. No, you cannot. Like, we're done. We're not doing that anymore.
And I always use an example. One thing I said before, and people hate when I say this, I always say, treat me how you would treat that man over there. Don't think that you can treat me this way and be late and be really disrespectful to me because I'm a woman, because you would not dare treat that man over there that way, because you know that another man would probably check you for disrespecting them. So when I start doing that, it's like, okay, yeah, now you know, like, you have to treat us all as equals, because you wouldn't talk to that man over there that does the same thing that you do any type of way, but you would talk to the woman. You would get upset by her prices and her standards and stuff. I've noticed that a lot in this industry when it comes to just movies or music, treating women, feeling like you can talk to women in a type of way, but you would not talk to a man that type of way, because they would not probably go in a good way. We all have goals we set for ourselves to be successful and make more money. Is hustle culture hurting us as a community? Many of us have other responsibilities, school, families, some are single parents, owning our own business and brand. What is your take on hustle culture, and have you experienced it?
Yes, I have experienced it. I think it's glorified, over glorified for sure. I think there's there's definitely value in hard work, and like seeing someone with like such a hard, you know, like such this like large work ethic that like they're willing to like do whatever needs to be done to make their dream come true. But I think like going back to what Neriah mentioned about like seeing the human in people, it definitely forgets the human in people and forgets to like acknowledge that like people need to take breaks. People have like lives and families, and like, if you know, our families may not all look the same, but like we still need to like save part of ourselves for like the people we care about, and for ourselves too, like self-care and all of that. Like it seems like that's all just kind of tossed out the window when we talk about hustle culture sometimes. And I mean, I say that also having like experienced it and, you know, been, you know, gone through it, and like maybe not taken the best care of myself, or not like been the best version of myself for like my family or my friends or myself. But I think, like I think we can learn a bit from hustle culture and like working hard in that, but like we need to take a break and like, you know, remember that we're human beings and that other people are human beings, and just not hold ourselves to such a harsh standard.
Yes, everybody needs a vacation. Sometimes I tell people, just turn off your phone on do not disturb, shut down your email. Nobody reaches you. If you feel like, okay, you're gonna crash and burn.
Yeah, and when you're off, like you're off. Yeah.
What about you, Neriah and SA?
Yeah, I'll just add everything that was just said was amazing. The only thing I'm going to add is, I think where that comes from is the whole like pick yourself up by the bootstraps bullcrap thing. So I think that's to blame for that, I guess. Like you said, over glorification of like hustle culture. But I also think it comes from in the BIPOC community in general, like we really don't have a choice. Like we have to, because we're desperately trying to play catch up. We're desperately trying to get into the room. We're desperately trying to be seen as equal. So it's almost like we don't have a choice. Like no one, I don't think any of us, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I didn't wake up and say like, oh, okay, for the rest of my life, I'm gonna like kill myself trying to get to my dream. Okay, and go. Like you know what I mean? It's just like, as I discovered that this is what I wanted to do, I've just found myself working harder and harder and harder, and overloading and overloading and overloading. And it's like, I still go through that now. Like I have to remind myself like, oh, like I have to stop and like eat. Like, oh, I didn't even eat today. Like I do that today. So that's what I always try to figure out, like how to just, it's like autopilot for me personally. Like that's just my go-to. Like I wake up, first thing I do is like check my email. Like, okay, what I got? Okay, let me do it. Like that's my brain. That's just how it works for some reason, and it's not healthy. So I'm still to this day working on that, not being that workaholic, because I feel like if I don't work, me and my daughter's not gonna eat. And like that's not a really healthy place to operate from, like that survival mode, I guess we'll call it, like survival mode. And that's what it feels like. That's what hustle culture feels like. Wake up, okay, go, you know, survive, go. Like we're in a burning house or something. And that's why I said, like, I get it. I get why it became like trendy. And yeah, of course, like, you know, wake up and go get it. I get that. But again, remember the human part of it too. Like we have to take a break. We have to breathe. We can't always be on. And I struggle with that too. Like I'm always on, staying up till 3 a.m. editing or something. Like, so I struggle with it too. So.
Even now, I went and had 2 hours of sleep last night from editing, but I know a lot of times in this industry, things always go wrong. And I'm one of those people where I'm an emotional person. So if something doesn't go right, I get emotionally, like I start crying. And when I found myself like, okay, I'm doing too much. I'm working a job. I'm trying to do this show. I have a daughter, and it was getting too much. I shut down my calendar for months. I absolutely did. I shut it down for a month. I let everybody know I went on vacation. And actually, I'm just really getting back in the groove, because I felt like, okay, I'm doing all of this and I'm not taking care of my mental health. Like sometimes you just need to just sit in your room and just watch a good show and just read a book or something, and just spend time with your family. Because even though we're working hard, it's like, let's enjoy us as well so we can appreciate what we're working for. That makes sense. Yeah. What about you, SA? Do you relate to the whole hustle culture?
I do. There's a African proverb that I learned as a young child, and it kind of goes like, every morning a lion wakes up, and he knows that if he does not outrun the slowest gazelle, he's gonna die. Then there's a gazelle who wakes up every morning and knows that if he does not outrun the fastest lion, he's gonna die. So it doesn't matter if you're the lion or the gazelle, you need to get up running. And that's just something that I was taught, and you go, but I've learned that if you don't sit down, your body will sit you down. So I suggest you take some self-care and some time for yourself, because if you don't, your body will. It can only do so much. But I had to learn that the hard way. So again, I feel like I'm the mother hen on this call. And I don't mind saying that you gotta take care of yourself. Or it'll all come crashing down.
I know I'll catch headaches and stuff. I remember I was going to this place where like I had a show, I spent this money, and the videographer, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. I paid him, so now I gotta get aggressive with you, because now I paid you. You didn't do your job, so now I gotta come off as that aggressive girl. And then this going on and this going on. I said, oh, this is too much. I started getting migraines. I'm getting migraines. Here goes the headache. Something's not right. So I told myself I have to shut. Your body will definitely tell you, sit down. And I'm too young to be going through that. So once I kind of made myself do that, I've set time for me, mommy time, me time. Like I've already shut my calendar down for October. I've already let people know, do not contact me. I'm unavailable. And I think it helps balance work-life balance. That's the word I'm going for. Work-life balance. Yes. And then also, you guys know with social media now, especially during the pandemic, people are kind of showing everyday life with me. So everybody's doing these videos, only 30 seconds, where they're putting it in there like they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this. And it's making everybody else think, okay, well, I have to run 3 or 4 businesses just to keep up with this person. And do you all think that's part of it too? Like social media is kind of taking a toll on our mental health based off what other people are doing?
I think influencers, or like even, I love a great motivational speaker. I always say Les Brown got me where I am today. Like, because when I was down in the dumps, I listened to him every morning. But so it's not everyone, but some of them are being a little too utopian when they say like for example, when she said that African proverb, I thought about, I can't think of his name, but he's a big motivational speaker. And he always talks about like, you got to get up like, 4 a.m. and because, like it's 20 other people that's trying to get to where you're trying to get to. So it's like, it is like kind of this race that feels like that. It feels exactly like what, lion and gazelle, like I got to get up and go, because there's like 20 other people trying to get to the same finish line that I'm trying to get to. Oh shoot, you know what I mean? And I can't rest, because as soon as I rest, the other dudes running past me. Like that's really what it feels like. And I know a lot of motivational speakers that will get on social media or, have that viral video, 20 seconds talking about how, you got to get up and go because 10 other people is coming behind you. And that's not healthy. Like, like it's just not healthy to wake up with that in your body. Like, oh God, I gotta go. And to your point about the wake up and here's what I do in my day, that makes me feel very unproductive. When I see stuff like, I'm like, oh dang, like, man, you can actually get a workout in the morning. Oh man, you meditated? Dang, I wish I could have time to meditate. Like, yeah, so I think it makes us second guess ourselves. And for me, I know it makes me second guess myself on my productivity, or like, am I working hard enough? Dang, I need to go harder. Like that's kind of what seeing that social media stuff. But to that point, I don't go on social media. I just stopped because it's super toxic, and Instagram is the highlights. So I've learned to stop looking at that as like, oh, I'm missing out on something, or I'm not being my best, or it's the highlights. Like everybody's going through something. No one's perfect. Like of course their page looks great, because why would they post like oh, today I was super depressed. Like, no, they're not going to post that. Like, they're going to post a trip to Paris or something, you know? So I've learned to like take that with a grain of salt, but I really try not to be on there unless it's for strictly business purposes and networking or something. But I just stay off of it because, yeah, it's super toxic.
And I think the pandemic definitely played a part on it. Everybody was home, everybody's trying to get creative and use this content. I think it's great also, but I think we also saw a lot of people that were suffering mentally. You know, times changed, a lot of people lost their jobs, and you know, they was letting people off. So you saw that side of it where, okay, everything's not okay. And I think most people relate more to that, like, okay, everything's not okay, or that lady over there, she has children and she's still able to push through. That motivates me. Okay, everything's going to be okay. So I always try to follow more realistic people, and I always try to be more realistic on my show. Give people the straight shot. So as we get close to the end of the panel discussion, I want to end it on a positive note. What progress has been made, and how will you contribute to the progress for women of color as far as creating jobs, volunteering, attending marches, etc.?
In terms of like the progress that's been made, I think sometimes I am the only woman of color, but not always. And I think like anytime I've been in a position where like I've like needed to advocate for myself, but like just didn't have the energy to, or like didn't feel like I could, like a woman of color has been there to like help advocate for me. And I think like that's really encouraging to me. And I feel like that's progress from like not having someone there to advocate for you. And I think about that a lot in terms of like how I'll contribute. Like because there was a time where I'd like removed myself from like the arts and trying to get into like a job in the arts because I felt like I was the only one. But now seeing like other women, you know, and knowing that there's others, you know, in this industry and trying to do the same thing I am, and having been helped by, you know, folks like me, like it makes me think like, okay, like if I stay here, like I can be that person to help like the next person, you know, to help like the next like youngin that wants to come in and like feels like they can't because they don't see enough people like them in the room. I think like a lot of what we talked about too, like staying true to ourselves, and like for me, like setting boundaries, standing my ground, leading by example, and just being there when like someone else needs it. Even if it's just like in the little, like even if it's not like, oh, like going out and like marching and doing that kind of thing, even though those things are like super important too, like being there for folks like around you when they need you is important too.
Yeah, it's a great point, Yari. What about you, Neriah and SA?
I'll say something positive that I'm seeing on the corporate side, which I'm actually really surprised about, is the consideration for our mental health. Excuse me. I'm actually seeing a lot of organizations that have like like when we have like paid time off, like our PTO, and it'll be a section that says like mental health day or something like that. So not everyone, but I have seen a lot of companies that are saying, hey, like unlimited PTO, like use it how you want. Like if you just need a mental break, like you could take that, you know, we're not going to question that at all. And being able to say, hey, go to your boss, and not, you know, like sometimes like I feel like back then definitely you'd be like, oh, you know, I'm sick, but really you just need a mental health day, but you got to play like you sick or something. So now I could just say, y'all, like I'm burning out, and like companies are doing better at being like, hey, like go take that time for yourself. Like, so that's something positive that I'm seeing, and we can now have conversations about work-life balance and being able to demand that from the C-suites and saying, hey, like take into consideration like my scheduling, like especially now that we're working from home and stuff like that. So those conversations are happening more in the corporate world, which is good, but corporate America still has a long way to go as well. And then more on for like my company and stuff, it's actually in my mission statement. Like I'm very passionate about when you're on my set, you're human first, period. Like, you know what I mean? And everyone is important. I want to make sure everyone's voice is heard, all the way down to the PA. I'm not someone that is on set and I treat my PAs like they're peasants. Like, no, I want their opinion to matter. Even if you just got our lunch today, like I want you to still feel like you played a huge role, because you did. Because if we don't eat, like we're not going to get nothing done, because we're all going to be the whole team here, and we're going to be pissed off, and we're going to be irritated, and we're not going to be able to. So like, even though you're just getting lunch, like you're still very important to the team, and I want people to feel that way. So that's kind of like my mission, and how to give back. And of course, inviting as much BIPOC community. When I'm building my camera departments, I want to, hire those, Black women, because no one hires them. Like I said, the whole Metroplex in Atlanta, I only know 5 of us. There's only 5 of us out here. So I try to like invite as many as possible, and help, give any advice, or give any knowledge that I've gained. Like, I'm always just trying to give away as much knowledge, because knowledge is power, so if I can even just give you that, like, that makes me feel good. But yeah, just making sure that when you're on my set, it's not a toxic environment is how I try to, facilitate that growth. Hopefully, if I ever get to the top, that'll transfer, and that'll just become the norm, so that's my hope.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what about you, Fa?
Well, I like that mental health is taking a front seat. Like she said, people are able to take mental health days. Companies are, where I work, we have a meditation hour every week, and we actually, not hour, but 30 minutes, but a meditation break, where we actually shut everything down, and if you so desire, you could go and do a meditation, so that's just where I work. And as I become my own boss, that's definitely something I want to add to my benefits. But I think mental health is really important, and it's really starting to get attention in the Black community. And that's important as well, because it hasn't always been that way. And just as important as your physical aspects, your mental aspect is, dare I say, more important, because where your head goes, your body goes. So, just taking care of that mental health and that inner being is extremely important. And I think that's something that's improving within the Black community. So that's a positive improvement that I see.
Yes, and I guess some progress that I see also, I see that there used to be a time where women had to wait on a man to give them the opportunity, but now we are creating our own brands and businesses, and we are going out there and becoming entrepreneurs, and we are creating these opportunities for ourselves. And I know one of my main goals is to hopefully, whenever I'm going to speak universally, if I have a national talk show, I want to make sure I have a woman as a director. I want to have a women all around me, so that I'm able to apply jobs for them. And even with a lot of artists, a lot of the women artists that I have on my show and interview with them, I always try to speak highly of them, and I always try to recommend them to this person just to help them out, because I already know that in this field, especially music, men are already dominated, and a lot of these women, you normally have to portray yourself in a sexual manner just to get attention. So I always try to speak highly of them and just make sure, I give them opportunities. If I need a theme song, I reach out to them, and just making it so we all can work together, because we all are women. And I just feel like it's not a time where men no longer run the world. We are also making moves and running the world for ourselves too. So I see a lot of progress still, with a lot of work to do, but I'm so proud of all of us. Like, I went to a conference of women of color, and it was just so many amazing women in there. And they was just talking about directors and what's called the Black Girl in Conference. I went, and there was just so many amazing women in there. And the woman that threw it, she was a Black woman, and the woman that actually gave me the opportunity to do media, she's a Black woman. So there was so many women in there, and they just all had things going on for themselves. And when you're around other women like that too, you can kind of see, okay, there's progress. And we see that now, just being on this panel, how we all came together to have this conversation. We all have different backgrounds, but we were all able to understand each other. Now, as we're closing out, you all let us know about yourself and what you do, and how can we check out your work. We're going to start with you, Neriah.
Yeah, so working on I got a couple shorts that I'm on right now, a couple passion projects, and then a couple scripts that I just signed on to, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, pretty much my website, caresproductions.com, and then on Instagram, Cares_productions. I pretty much keep that pretty updated as far as like I have blogs and I have any like tidbits or advice or anything like that I try to share in my blog and stuff and make it educational or help share resources and things like that. Yeah, and just like sharing like challenges or like what inspires me and things like that. So my Instagram is probably the best bet for you to go. And then my website, I have my blog and stuff. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
And I've been to your blog too, set up so nicely. And what about you, Ed?
So the things I have going on, September 14th, I'm shooting my last set of scenes for my film anthology. September 30th, I am shooting the interviews for my podcast called 10th and Northside. And then I'm starting some live brunch shows where I'm doing a one-woman show and a brunch in November. So got a lot going on. But you can reach me my Facebook and my IG. They're both writer S.A. Brown, and that's writer like I write things. So writer S.A. Brown, and my website is sabentertainment.com.
Yes, thank you so much. And Yari, you last.
Hi, so I'm normally based in Atlanta. I came out to Colorado for a seasonal job, and I'll be staying here through the winter to be a studio assistant. I'll get studio space as well, so I'll be working on a lot of my own personal projects, making my own artwork, which is really exciting. I guess if folks want to like keep up and see what I'm making, if they're interested in like anything that I'm producing or anything like that, my Instagram is one of the best ways. It has links to everything. My Instagram is just my name, yari.mena, yari.mena. My website is yarimena.com, and I also have like a little blog on there about that I started when I moved out here to Colorado, which I thought would be a lot shorter than it's probably going to be now, but it'll be up and running through April most likely.
Yes, that's amazing. And I'm Kayla Got the 411. Thank you to the Voyage team for putting together this panel, but also giving us the opportunity to talk freely and just come amongst each other. We all didn't know each other before we came together, but I'm so glad that we all came together. And thank you all for having me be your host and moderator. And I hope you all had a great time. This was a great experience as well. And I hope whoever is watching this, I hope that you chime in and let us know wherever you're watching on your experiences. And you can catch my show on YouTube, Spotify, podcasts, platforms all over if you want to check out Kayla Got the 411 Talk Show. And thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. This was awesome.